Welcome to the NonProfit Voice, a podcast series brought to you by NonProfit Pro, the go-to resource for nonprofit management and strategy. In each episode, we're going to sit down with leaders of nonprofit organizations, the people responsible for paving the way for our sector, along with key technology strategy partners who are transforming our industry. Here at the NonProfit Voice, we'll have refreshing conversations in which we will all learn more about the convergence of nonprofit and technology. Be sure to follow us on social media and visit our website to find more episodes of the NonProfit Voice. And you can download all of the NonProfit Voice episodes on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify. We will have all the links down below.
Hi, welcome back to the NonProfit Voice. I'm Amanda Cole, the editor-in-chief of NonProfit Pro and host of today's episode. Thank you for joining me on today's podcast, where we will be discussing how PanMass Challenge, a Massachusetts-based bike-a-thon benefiting cancer research and treatment, noticed some trends that resulted in the organization launching a brand new fundraising event for 2022. With us today is Jarrett Collins, president of PMC. Welcome, Jarrett.
Thank you, Amanda. Great to be here.
Before we get started, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization?
Sure, I'm delighted to. So I joined the PanMass Challenge 3 years ago and am now its president. But I've been working on both for-profit and nonprofit ventures now for about 3 decades. And the PanMass Challenge was started in 1980. It is an organization that, from the very beginning, was dedicated to raising funds so that cancer would be hopefully one day an historical artifact and not something that so many of us deal with. So we fund the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston, Mass, and they do research and treatment for cancer. And they're one of the leading organizations in the world to do that, certainly considered one of the top 4 on the planet. Everything that the PanMass Challenge riders do, and we do our fundraising through bike-a-thons, 100% of that money goes to Dana-Farber. And so riders and donors love the fact that we have that 100% pass through, and it's what we plan to keep doing forever.
Awesome. And to date, you've raised, I think it's $831 million for the Institute?
That's right. So since 1980, we've raised a cumulative $831 million, all of which has been donated to Dana-Farber.
Nice. And fast forward to 2022, you're now gearing up for the inaugural PMC Unpaved, which is an off-road gravel ride. So tell me, your team noticed an increased interest in off-road biking during the pandemic, and that kind of transformed into this new event. Can you share more on how the event came to be and also how it fits into your overall fundraising strategy?
I'm happy to. The genesis for PMC Unpaved really grew out of a skill set that we have, which is hosting bike-a-thons, giving riders who participate in them the tools to fundraise effectively, all of which rolled up into that $831 million that we've been able to donate over the last 43 years. And PMC Unpaved really has grown out of this growing interest in off-road riding. We're all familiar with bike-a-thons that go on the road, and for that matter, people who run long distances to raise money for their various causes. In our case, we realized that the pandemic accelerated an interest in getting out in nature. And for cyclists, that can mean off-road riding, whether it's mountain biking or gravel. PMC Unpaved is decidedly a gravel format, and there will be 2 rides that we're going to host on October 1st this year in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, which is Western Mass. One will be a 30-mile route, and one will be 50. It's not a race, but the idea is that plus some great social activities like music and some beers and bonfire afterwards will give riders who prefer off-road riding a chance to participate in the same fundraising that the PMC has historically done on-road.
Nice. And P2P events obviously have a variety of reasons for participants to sign up, whether they're enthusiastic riders, supporters, survivors, whatnot. I noticed that PMC promotes their rides as fundraising mission first and a bike ride second. So I'm just curious kind of how that focus do you feel influenced the fundraising results you're able to achieve?
Well, it's so important for us because we love the community aspect, certainly, of hosting big events, right? That's part of the fun of being part of a group of people who maybe have known one another for many years or are just meeting for the first time. That shared effort of going out for a long bike ride together can be a thrill in and of itself, and that's fine. And there's a whole group of organizations around the world who put on bike events, but have either no fundraising requirement or fairly modest ones, $100, $200, etc. The Pan Mass Challenge on average raises over $9,000 per rider when we put on our summer event, which now is in its 43rd year. And it happens in the first week of August every summer. Riders go from Sturbridge, Massachusetts or Wellesley all the way down to Cape Cod. And then the second day they go to the very tip of Cape Cod in Provincetown. But we make sure that riders make a commitment to raising, gosh, as little as a couple $1,000s, but in some cases at least $6,000, depending on the route they've chosen, because we're a fundraiser. We're trying to move the needle on cancer. And we're trying to, again, make this something that our kids or our kids' kids don't have to worry about. So our riders take that very seriously. They have a lot of fun on the way. It gives them a great athletic goal every summer. And in this case, for our PMC Unpaved event, it'll give them a great athletic goal for the fall, October 1st. But we definitely emphasize that this is about raising funds and this is about making a difference. And that resonates with our riders. I'll say one last thing about that. 10% of the riders and volunteers who participate in the Pan Mass Challenge each summer, and that's almost 9,000 people, about 10% of them each year are what we call living proof. They're people who've been diagnosed with cancer and are managing their cancer with current treatments, or they are considered to be, in remission and really have been cured of cancer. So these are a very passionate group, and they're surrounded by riders who have lost family members, have overcome diagnoses themselves, and who have also had lost, family, and friends, I should say, to cancer.
And now the PMC Unpaved is going to be a much smaller event. You're expecting about 500 riders, but it was interesting to see that you're expecting actually a combination of new and existing riders. So I'm curious what led you to believe that you'd be able to kind of interest your current participants in a new race, but also acquire new ones.
Sure. A lot of our riders in the summer PMC that we host every year also own mountain bikes and gravel bikes. Or if they don't, they've maybe been bugging their partner that they need to buy one. And so this is a great opportunity for them to get into the saddle, if you will, in a slightly different event. And so they don't fit neatly into only road riding or only gravel riding participants. That's number one. Number two, we do want this to be an incremental fundraiser. We're starting small with just 500 spots, as you mentioned, compared to the 6,000 to 7,000 we expect this summer. And that's really a reflection of two things. One, we've never done it before in this format. So we want to make our mistakes on a small scale. And I think that's probably just good to iterate and make it even better the following year. And two, we do want to attract people who aren't familiar with the Pan Mass Challenge because it's a way of growing the pie for us. And we're not going to prevent current Pan Mass Challenge riders from participating in it, and a number of them will. But of course, we'd love to bring as many new people into our mission as possible.
And I'm curious, have you ever, were you considering a new event and this one just felt like the right fit, or was this just you saw the trend and you felt like you had to jump on it?
Yeah, I'm a gravel rider myself. I've been riding on the road now for about 14 years, but I've been riding off-road for the last 4. And so this was a great opportunity that I saw developing over the last several years. Indeed, riding mountain bikes, of course, is not new. That's been true for a long time. But this in-between type of cycle, which is not a road bike, but it kind of looks like a road bike, but it's got knobbier, wider tires, is something that's coming on strong. And so we thought the time was right. We checked with a lot of our current PMC riders and confirmed that a lot of them were excited about this extension as well. And so this is a logical place for us to extend. We have actually in the past also added another ride for PMCers, which we call the Winter Cycle. And that's an indoor ride. It's on stationary bikes at Fenway Park in Boston. We get almost 1,000 riders in January each year to participate in this indoor ride. And so it's not the first time we've extended beyond our road riding chops, but it's the first time we've introduced a new ride in about 10 years.
Okay. And with that, what do you think your expectations are? You're coming off your best year with 64 million raised. So what do you think specifically for PMC unpaved, but also the entire year in terms of fundraising?
Yeah, we haven't publicly stated a goal yet for this year. We're ambitious, and of course we'd like it to be more than 64 million, but we haven't publicly announced that yet. I will say this: we are seeing terrific registration numbers already for our summertime ride, and we haven't opened registration for unpaved yet. But if we raise, if we registered 500 riders, so if we sell it out, and each of them raises, let's say, a couple $1,000, it's $1 million potential. So we think that potential exists. Our fundraising minimum for unpaved is $1,500, but often our ambitious riders will overshoot the mark. Some of them raise quite a lot more than that. So we're optimistic that this ride has $1 million potential in the first year.
Nice. And just to do a little bit of comparison, I know you guys cite your goal as attaining fundraising efficiency while increasing its annual gift, which obviously we just discussed a little bit, but can you elaborate on kind of what attaining fundraising efficiency has looked like for PMC over its 4 decades of hosting these events, and how that mindset will be influenced by PMC Unpaved?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So when I think of efficiency, I think of it in 2 ways. One, making sure that we've controlled our costs and we amortize it over a big enough event or operation so that we can make sure that our overhead, if you will, the cost to host the event, is paid for by other sources than donor funds. What does that mean? It means that the rider can say to their donors, 100% of every dollar you write in a check or make as an electronic contribution or through a Facebook fundraiser, what have you, that'll all go to Dana-Farber. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning, the riders and the donors really love that efficiency. The other way we try to be efficient is we give our riders as many different tools as possible to be able to fundraise, because they need to meet their donors where they are. Some donors want to give through a DAF. Some donors want to give through Facebook. Some donors want to write a check, which, 20 years ago, that's how we raised all our money. Basically, people would send in envelopes of checks at the end of the fundraising season. Now, of course, the majority of our transactions are electronic. So the more efficient we can be, or maybe put another way, the more effective we can make our fundraisers, the more money we're able to raise and set a new record for Dana-Farber.
And on top of that, I mean, what has adding virtual participants done for fundraising? Because that's fairly new, I'm sure, for you guys as well.
Yeah. So virtual was always an option that we had here, but the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, changed everything in 2020. So we basically went entirely virtual in the summer of 2020 as the world shut down and as people weren't sure how safe they could be indoors or even outdoors during that time. So we told all the riders in 2020, we want you to reimagine your Pan Mass Challenge this summer. And that means ride wherever you are, as long as you want, but we still need you to fundraise. And the cause of fighting cancer hasn't been diminished just because there's sort of a new health scourge in town, which was COVID-19. So that really got more riders thinking about being able to do a PMC on their own. And in 2021, about 1,000 of our 5,000 riders actually stayed reimagined, right? So they ended up doing a ride where best suited their needs. Could have been in their hometown in Maine. It could have been abroad. It could have been even within Massachusetts, which is where our events usually happen. But it was not, it just wasn't convenient for them to to get there, or they didn't feel safe riding in a big group. And as we look into the future, we think that reimagined or virtual status will continue to be important. But it's also true that the majority of our riders each year, I believe, will be in person with group starts, with thousands of their friends cycling down the road and having this wonderful shared experience of fighting cancer.
Great. And just to end, what advice do you have for nonprofits? And these could be, they may look like you, looking to expand their peer-to-peer fundraising and event capabilities, or maybe they're just looking to launch their first event. What guidance could you offer them right now?
Well, I think that they're going to learn an awful lot the first time that they try doing an event like this, whether it's riding or walking or swimming or biking or whatever they think is going to resonate with some critical mass of their supporters. But I would encourage them to certainly have a fundraising minimum that's enforceable. In our particular case, when someone signs up for a 2-day ride from Sturbridge to Provincetown in the summer, or they sign up to be part of PMC Unpaved, we'll hold their credit card for the fundraising minimum, $6,000 in the first case, $1,500 for the shorter unpaved rides in our first year. And our experience has been that a tiny fraction of those riders don't end up independently raising the $6,000 fundraising minimum and then some, or in the case of the shorter rides, a smaller amount, but yet still hitting their minimum. So I think that that's a really important part of the way you do it, is you have to have riders commit, and then they'll figure out how to raise the funds necessary. There's nothing quite like knowing that your own credit card is going to get run to heighten your focus. Because, if your goal is simply to get your constituents together and have a big party or a festival of some type, that's great. But I think that it can be much more impactful for them and for the organization, if you have real fundraising teeth around it.
Awesome. Well, I think we'll wrap there today. That's all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you to our guest, Jarrett. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you, Amanda. I loved it.
And thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed an in-depth look at Pan Mass Challenge, which is taking place August 6th to 7th, as well as the inaugural PMC Unpaved, happening October 1st. You can learn more at pmc.org and unpaved.org. On behalf of NonProfit Pro, I'm Amanda Cole, and we will see you on the next episode of the NonProfit Voice.
Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the NonProfit Voice. You can listen to more episodes of the NonProfit Voice at nonprofitpro.com/podcast/the-nonprofit-voice. And remember, for your convenience, you can stream any and all episodes of the NonProfit Voice on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify.